They told everyone I was a mistake. Not once, not in whispers, but in loud laughter at family dinners. I was the daughter they never wanted, the one who ruined their retirement plans by being born too late. My name is Cassidy, 24 now, and for as long as I can remember, I've been trying to earn scraps of love from people who never even learned how to spell the word. My mother, a self-proclaimed elegant traditionalist, wore cruelty like perfume. My father was quieter, but colder, like ice pressed against your neck. And my older sister Julia? She was the crown jewel of the family. Valedictorian, pageant queen, their perfect little legacy. She could knock over a glass, and I'd be blamed for placing it too close to the edge. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. The night I told them I was pregnant, I thought, maybe this time would be different. I was scared, vulnerable, and hoping for a sliver of comfort, but my mother's face twisted like she'd bitten into something rotten. With who? That dropout loser from the garage? Figures you'd trap yourself like this. My father didn't look up from his paper. You always make things harder, Cassidy. Julia snorted, brushing her perfect hair behind her ear. Maybe the baby will be smarter than you. I wasn't surprised, but something inside me cracked open that night. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was clarity. This wasn't a family. This was a cage. Months passed. I worked 2 jobs, slept on a friend's couch after they kicked me out for the stress I was bringing into their lives. I scrimped and saved for prenatal vitamins, secondhand baby clothes, and an old crib I found on Craigslist. And somehow I still showed up for every family event. I don't know why. Maybe some part of me still believed they'd change. Then came the ride to the doctor's appointment. My mother called unexpectedly and offered to drive me. You're lucky we're even wasting gas, she said with a huff. You should be grateful. We drove in silence most of the way. I was already cramping. I knew the baby was coming. Too early, too sudden. I told them. I begged. Mom kept driving. Save the dramatics. I think I need to go to the hospital now. Please, I gasped. I'm not okay. And then they pulled over. Not at a hospital, not at a clinic. A desolate cliffside road outside town. Wind howling, gravel crunching under tires. The sky was turning gray. My father opened the door on my side and gestured out. You want drama? Here's your stage. I'm not getting out, I whispered, but he yanked me anyway. My knees hit the dirt. I was crying, clutching my belly, breath shallow. Mom tossed something beside me, a ripped black trash bag. That's all the protection we're wasting on you. Wool is for people who matter. And Julia from the back seat smirked. Good luck, Cassidy. Maybe someone useful will drive by, or maybe your baby will roll into the ravine and solve everything. They got in, they slammed the doors, and they drove away. Wind shrieked around me like it was mourning what they'd done. But I didn't scream. I didn't collapse. I held my belly. I wrapped the trash bag around my shaking shoulders. I crawled to the guardrail and sat, breathing through pain, alone on a cliffside, cradling the only thing in the world that made me feel human. And in that moment, I made a promise. They would see me again, and when they did, I wouldn't be the broken girl on the road. I would be their reckoning. I don't know how long I sat there on that frozen edge of nowhere, just me, a shredded trash bag, and the thudding terror inside my belly. My contractions were minutes apart now. The wind sliced through my skin. Every breath burned. I was crying, shaking, clutching my stomach, whispering to my unborn daughter, "Hold on, please, just hold on." A single pair of headlights cut through the fog. At first, I thought I was hallucinating, but then the old pickup truck pulled over, engine rumbling low, window rolling down. A woman's voice. "You all right, sweetheart?" I couldn't speak. I just sobbed. She jumped out, mid-50s, flannel coat, steel gray braid swinging behind her. Her name was Ruth, and that night, she became the reason I survived. She helped me into her truck, wrapped me in every blanket she had, and gunned it toward the nearest rural clinic. The last thing I remember before passing out was her gripping my hand and muttering, "You're not alone, not anymore." My daughter was born 6 hours later, tiny, early, but strong. I named her Elia, after the elm trees Ruth said once saved her during a storm. The first time I held her in my arms, something changed in me forever. Not just the love, not just the instinct, but a quiet, searing clarity. I was done begging people to love me. I was going to become the kind of woman no one could leave on a cliff ever again. Ruth let us stay with her in her cabin, a small wooden place tucked in the hills, with a porch that creaked and a fireplace that always smelled like pine. She taught me how to cook cheap and healthy, how to grow herbs, how to sew things back together, including myself. I found an online coding boot camp with a scholarship, spent months rocking Aaliyah with one hand and learning Python with the other. I worked freelance projects during naps. Ruth watched Aaliyah while I worked night shifts cleaning at the local high school. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't fast, but it was mine. 2 years later, I had my own apartment, then a job offer in the city, real salary, benefits, childcare. I built a financial app that got featured on a Women in Tech blog. I began speaking at schools, helping teen moms get into tech careers. People started to notice, and so did my parents. One day, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. "Cassidy, this is your father." The voice was so casual, so rehearsed. "We saw an article about you in the paper. Your picture was on it." Silence. "You look, well?" I didn't say anything. I was staring out my window at Elia in the garden, laughing in the sun, chasing butterflies with Ruth. My throat felt like stone. "We thought maybe," he continued, "we could reconnect, have a proper family dinner." I let him talk. I let him spin his version of reality. Then I said, "You left me to give birth on the side of a cliff." He laughed nervously. "We were scared. You know how your mother is. It was a stressful time." She tossed a trash bag at me like I was garbage. "Let's not dwell on the past. We're family." That word, family. Like it could erase everything. Then Mom came on the line. "Cassidy," she said stiffly, "we've invited Julia and her fiancé over next week. We'd like you and the child to come. It would look nice." It would look nice. That's all it ever was. Appearances. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just smiled. And I said, "Sure, I'll come. I'll bring Ilya, but I have one condition." I could hear the pause, the hesitation. "Anything," my mother said too quickly. "I want to bring someone else with me, someone important." I didn't explain. I didn't need to. They agreed, and that's when the final piece of my revenge began to fall into place. The invitation came wrapped in cheap gold foil, like a bribe pretending to be warmth. Family dinner, Sunday, 7 p.m. I didn't RSVP. I just showed up. Ruth drove. Aaliyah sat in her booster seat, singing to the rhythm of the wipers. The city gave way to the same empty hills I'd once crawled through in pain. When the old family house appeared, paint peeling, shutters hanging crooked, it didn't look like power anymore. It looked like memory trying too hard to stay alive. My mother opened the door, pearls at her throat, smile rehearsed. "Cassidy," she said, as if the name belonged to someone else. "You look improved." "Hard to stay the same after being left for dead," I replied, stepping inside. They had laid the table too perfectly, crystal glasses, roasted chicken, flowers that smelled like apology. Julia swept in wearing designer silk, her engagement ring catching the light. She froze when she saw Ruth behind me. "This is Ruth," I said evenly. "The woman who stopped on the cliff that night, the one who actually saved your grandchild's life." My father cleared his throat. "We were going to call the police." "Don't," I said. "You had 3 years." He looked away first. I sat down, Aaliyah on my lap, Ruth beside me. No one moved to serve the food. The air itself felt tight. "So," Julia began with a brittle laugh, "you're doing tech stuff now? I saw something online." "I built a company," I said. "We design financial literacy apps for single parents. 10 employees. 200,000 downloads." My mother blinked like she hadn't heard the number correctly. "That's impressive," she said finally, but the compliment slid out of her mouth like vinegar. "I came tonight because you said you wanted to reconnect." I folded my napkin, slow and deliberate. "That's good, because I have a partnership proposal." That caught my father's attention. "Partnership?" "My company's sponsoring a new mentorship program at the community center. The same one where you both used to chair donations." I leaned forward. "We're taking over the entire program. You'll see our logo where your name used to be." He frowned. "You can't?" "I already did." Ruth handed him an envelope. Inside were the transfer documents and the confirmation letter. The nonprofit had been floundering under their mismanagement for months. A quiet donation from my company had paid the debts, and in exchange, I got full control. My mother's hand shook as she read, You can't just erase our legacy." "Legacy?" I said softly. "You left yours screaming on a cliff. I built mine." Julia slammed her glass down. "You came here to gloat." "No," I said. "I came here to close a circle." I stood up, lifting Elia into my arms. "She's the only legacy that matters to me now." Ruth followed as I headed for the door, but I paused once more on the threshold. The same door they'd slammed in my face years before. "You know what's funny?" I said. "When you left me there, I thought I'd spend my life trying to prove you wrong, but success wasn't revenge. Peace was." They said nothing. The silence was finally honest. Outside, the evening smelled of rain and pine. I walked down the gravel path toward Ruth's truck, Aaliyah's little fingers tangled in my hair. "Mommy," she whispered. "Are those the bad people?" I hesitated. "They were," I said, "but we don't need to carry them with us anymore." Ruth smiled as she started the engine. The house behind us shrank in the mirror, its windows glowing like fading embers. Weeks later, headlines began to ripple through the local papers. Former charity board members accused of fraud. Someone had leaked the records my father tried to hide. Not me directly. One of the journalists I'd mentored. Truth has a way of finding its own microphone. When the investigation ended, my parents moved away quietly. Julia deleted her social media empire one night and never rebuilt it. The world simply forgot them. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post about it. I just took Aaliyah to the ocean for the first time. She ran toward the waves, laughing, her curls wild in the wind. Ruth sat beside me on the sand, handing me a thermos of tea. "You ever think about driving back up there?" she asked. "To the cliff?" I smiled faintly. "Sometimes, but not to look back." I pulled a small silver keychain from my pocket, shaped like a guardrail. A reminder, not a wound. "I keep it to remember that night didn't end me," I said. "It started me." As the sun sank, Aaliyah's laughter echoed over the surf, bright, fearless, alive. And for the first time, I realized that revenge wasn't a storm or a headline or a courtroom. It was a calm evening by the sea. It was being warm when they wished you cold. It was holding your child in peace while the past finally froze behind you. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.